visto che lei è non solo attore, ma produttore e imprenditore, mi può dire qual è di tutte queste cose che le piace di più fare, di tutte queste sue attività? E poi, dopo aver diretto il cortometraggio multifashion, ha intenzione di darsi alla regia per il grande schermo?
Where do I start? Okay, so I've been acting since I was 7 years old. And for me, acting has always been therapeutic. For many, many, many years, I couldn't get any roles, as you know. And 20 years after I started acting and I was beating the pavement in New York City to try to get off Broadway plays, I took a stab at directing, and I directed a short film called Multifacial. And then I directed Strays, as you know, which was in dramatic competition in Sundance in 1997. Had I not done that, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I did that as the last resource, as the last resort, because my dreams as an actor that were so hard fought were not being realized. You learn to produce while you're directing independent film. Unfortunately, I haven't directed a feature since Strays. The only thing I directed was the prequel to the last movie, Fast 4, called Los Bandoleros. And Los Bandoleros, I think, set a certain tone for this leg of the franchise. Being a producer is not something that I got because of my position in acting. It's something I fought for. It's something I held out for because I wanted to raise the standards of what we were working on, if this makes sense. So I didn't do the second and the third movie, and the studio came to me and asked me to do a cameo for Tokyo Drift. And they had said they weren't really sure if they ever wanted to go back to doing Fast and Furious again. All my agents said, don't do the cameo. If you do the cameo, you may mislead everyone into thinking that you're in the movie and you'll just let everybody down when they realize you're only in the movie for half a minute. But the studio said, since you haven't done any more Fast and Furious movies, if you do this cameo, you can produce the next Fast and Furious. And I went to the studio and I said, if I do this cameo, I'd want to produce the next 3 Fast and Furious movies. And the reason was, as good as the first 3 were, they were disjointed, they weren't connected. They didn't follow the true progression. And what I wanted to do was take a more Francis Ford Coppola approach to producing these movies. If you look at this Fast and Furious, it's the first Fast and Furious that starts with the same exact scene that the last Fast and Furious ended. That was one of my biggest victories in Hollywood. It sounds simple, it sounds like natural and obvious. It was one of the biggest victories I've ever had in Hollywood, was to be able to honor the audience by continuing the story, as opposed to just using a brand name and using the brand name and taking the story all over the place. One of the reasons why people appreciate this film so much, everyone says, the best film. One of the things that the audience appreciates so much about this film is that it's continuing the story. Hollywood, the studios in Hollywood forgot the most important thing about creating a saga, which is leaving your audience asking one question. What happens next? So by us starting with the breakout scene, we are answering exactly what happens next. People go, why are you in Rio? Why does the movie take place in Rio? This is all thought out beforehand. If you remember in Fast and Furious 4, Dom and Letty are on the beach. And Letty says, I hear Rio is beautiful this time of year. And we learn that Vince, Dom's other childhood friend, is in Rio. So when Brian and Mia break Dom out of the prison bus and now he's got to get his family to safety, the only place he can go is to that friend that was established in Fast and Furious 4 that lives in Rio, south of the border. The reason why I haven't directed a feature is because of a fault of my own. And that is, I have this anabolic drive that takes all my free time and focuses it on the Hannibal trilogy. And I probably should have directed other movies. I have friends that say direct other movies. But I've been so myopic about my desire to realize this film that hasn't been attempted in 50 years, this Hannibal the Conqueror film, that I haven't allowed myself the freedom to venture off of that goal. Hopefully, once Fast and Furious 6 is delivered, at the level it'll be delivered, hopefully the studio, Universal, will have enough faith that they'll allow me to do the Hannibal trilogy. And if they don't allow me to do the Hannibal trilogy, I'm going to ask all of you to make a